Never had to work for love. Don't need you to show me how. Don't wanna be falling in when I'm falling out. Didn't think I'd give for love. Every time I hold it back, nothing's lost in my head. I'm trying to find who I am. There's choosers, there's takers, there's begging, heartbreakers. I don't wanna be that way. I don't wanna feel this way when I meet someone. I don't want to need no one. I'm not trying to let you in. Even if I found the one. Never had to wait for love. Always thought it'd come around. You come for me, but I'm nowhere to be found. Cancellations for conversations I don't need right now. I'm afraid of these relations. I can't be tied down. There's choosers, there's takers, there's begging, heartbreakers. I don't wanna be that way. I don't wanna feel this way when I meet someone. I don't wanna need no one. I'm not trying to let you in. Even if I found I don't wanna feel this way when I meet someone. I don't wanna need no one. I'm not trying to let you in. Even if I found the one.
Whew, man. Guys, hey, this is Diamond and Vera. We're back at it with the live discussions with Diamond podcast. Letting you guys know this is episode 185. And what you just saw was a recap from the Zukomax 2021 with We Are Street Dancers and our special guest tonight. But before we get started, just letting you know that this podcast will be available on YouTube, Facebook, and other streaming platforms. And now, people, we're getting to the heart of it. Today's interview today is with a person that, for me, has truly inspired me as a visual artist, as a videographer, as a media person. And I've told him himself that he was the sole inspiration for me starting to film Zook. And by the looks of this past video we just saw, you can see the inspiration clearly. And honestly, we are pleased to announce here at the podcast that we have from Makana Media, Mr. Preston Curley.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. Preston, first of all, that video you did definitely encapsulates all the wonderful memories that, Zook, just being close-knit with the people you love. Those moments were just priceless. And honestly, man, from one artist to another, thank you so much for your contribution to media, contribution to the dance world, because your work, for me, is truly valued.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And it means a lot to hear that I've inspired you. I'm feeling really happy that I've had that impact on another artist.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, man, there's so many people now. If I see with a camera, with an iPhone, with a Canon, Lumix, Nikon, whatever you have. But for me, I think there's very few visual artists, especially in this dance world, whether it's Zouk, bachata, salsa, kizomba, and the list goes on, that for me really are impactful. As we will talk as well, realizing kind of your history going into film school and, that kind of really starting the journey for you, which we'll get into. But most of all here at the podcast, the focus is helping people understand really the human side, because I think too, with a 2-3 minute recap, not many people still can. The people that really admire our work really get to understand the artist for who they are, because hey, we're always moving, we're always traveling to the next event, and many times we don't have those moments of just decompression and maybe just having an honest conversation that doesn't always lead to our work. So, something that just really helps us kind of stay centered. But as I always do in my podcast, as we always start, we kind of like to take things way back before, the artistry. So kind of give us an understanding of who Preston is before Makana Media, before film school, before it all.
Absolutely, and great question. Wow, that's a deep one. I gotta go
Yeah.
way back. Yeah, yeah. I grew up in California, Bay Area,
Hmm.
in a town called Marin County. Some people know it, some people don't, but it's really close to San Francisco. So if you know where
Hmm.
San Francisco is, it's in that general area. I also have Hawaiian family members, and I lived in Hawaii for a small amount of time. I got a lot of culture, relatives there. Um, but yeah, I just grew up in the Bay Area. Always been an optimistic person and a visual person for sure, visual learner. And I can tell you, growing up, if people would have asked me, "Am I going to be a visual learner and I'm going to create videos?" I probably would have not believed in my capability to do so. And that's the place I am in my life now is I've grown a lot into my passion and being more assertive and taking action. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you said, you being, of course, from the Bay Area, but having roots in Hawaii, and for me, knowing a lot of people in the San Fran area, they're very passionate also about their sports. So, were you kind of that person or that kid when you were younger? Were you into sports, or did you have like really some hobbies or activities that you're really fond of?
Yeah, that's interesting that you asked that. I did come from a family of sports. I have two half brothers that I
Hmm.
grew up with. One actually played in the NFL for 7 years, and he's now retired. He
Wow.
was on the Tennessee Titans, Arizona Cardinals, 49ers, um, and his last team was the Charger. And my other brother, is still currently an NFL agent. And I also played football in high school and a little bit in college. And then I
Yeah.
decided it wasn't for me. That was kind of like
Mm.
the time where I fell off sports. But my whole life has been very sports oriented. And actually, to correct that, in college, I also played rugby at the University of San
Ah.
Francisco as well. So actually, I thought that was my path, was sports. Like I was either
Hmm.
going to have a career in sports, some job related to sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, see, and the power of just the conversation, we're kind of opening up really the Pandora's box, and realizing kind of the history aspect of it, because most people, would have the cliche answer, "I've been filming all my life, always had a camera," but realizing some of our paths are different to get to where we are presently. So, when was that transition going from sports, like you said, stepping away from that, and how did film become a part of your life?
Thank you for that question. It's causing me to think a little bit. I gotta go into it. When was the transition? The exact transition into filmmaking and art was when I was studying business management
Mm,
in college, and I hated it. I was bored. I was like, "What am I doing?" I couldn't. I just, and I'm not very good with math.
mhm.
So and I know a lot of people say that, but I wasn't. I had no drive.
Yeah.
Um, so I went to I forget what you call them, counselor or student advisor, and I told them, "Hey, I think I want to switch to something else. Like, what does the university have?"
Yeah.
And we went through a list, and they had media studies and film, and I asked them, "Well, what does that cover?" And it wasn't just filmmaking, which is something that I did eventually take on, but it was also studying media institutions, news, broadcast, radio, journalism. I studied all of that. So it was pretty much college.
Mhm.
To give you the exact answer, college was when I made the switch. I was in college, miserable with business management, wasn't feeling aligned, wasn't feeling congruent. And then I
Yeah.
decided, there's got to be something here that I could get behind. And it was filmmaking. And they had a whole filmmaking course, and I dived right into that.
Man, it's also interesting you said that because I see a lot of people in college, they have one major, but it's usually like the prerequisites or extra classes that you can take that kind of pull you in. And it's also funny, we have here Magali Romero from Brownsville, Texas, saying he does that, he'll make you think. I mean, hey, I like to ask inquisitive questions because, hey, most people, they'll see you and then they'll say, tell me about this video, tell me about this video. But for me, it's like, hey, we have to understand where it all started from before we know where we are, you know. But that's also surprising is that, you know, with your family and that history of sports, for you to, you know, step away from that. And it took a filmmaking course to kind of change the course of or the direction of your career. So, you know, from taking that course, when was the moment that you said, "Hey, I'm gonna get a camera and I'm gonna start filming"? Was it like those projects that you normally have in your classes? How did that come about?
So the first thing that happened was when I stepped into my first filmmaking course, I was kind of thrown into editing and script writing, like the
Mm,
first two the courses. And I think it would actually be safe to say that my fascination with editing, cutting, changing images is what attracted me because I probably knew how to edit before I knew how to film. And
mm,
when I started playing with shot types and emotion and story and seeing like because I love movies and I love
yes.
television shows and I know a lot of us do, but I really resonate with emotion and deep impact. And when people leave a movie, they feel like they've gotten something out of it. It wasn't just an experience where they had a blast and they left. Like there was actually they went home and they asked themselves questions. And
Hmm.
that was kind of what I was starting to get when I was working in when I was studying film. I was like, oh wait, I can create my own story.
Yeah.
And I picked up a camera and I learned the whole process. And we learned about casting, like getting actors who would come onto set for free,
Hmm.
people who were trying to get their foot in the door in the industry, and people who wanted to write and draw up storyboards and plan out the film. Ended up building a whole team, and it just kind of took off from there.
Wow. I mean, that's special. I mean, having that opportunity, but also seizing it, seizing the opportunity, because, like you said, and many people I know who live in California, whether it's LA, San Francisco, you name it, the topic or the direction of acting comes into play. And like you said, there are moments that you have those actors that, hey, you're not getting paid, you're gonna come if you want to get your foot in the door, and you got to learn from really square one. And like you said, you going from the emotional aspect, because especially watching the past video from the Zukomax 2021 recap, I could see the emotion, I could see the storytelling. Because, you know, I think that also I wish I'd seen more of from a lot of other artists. I love the visual artists that I see, but when I'm seeing a story, when I see the music match to the emotion of the subject, I mean, I can tell that a person like yourself, you're in tune with it. It's not just about, oh, this is a cool dance. Yeah, it's a cool dance, but if I move around this angle, I can capture it a little bit differently than just a standstill. And you know that right there shows the experience you have. So now the question is, when did the transition into, of course, the traditional in the role sense of filmmaking dive into the dance world? How did that come into play?
Great question. It's a big answer, and there's a lot of details to it. Where do I begin here? Well, it starts with you know actually life conflict. Believe it or not, I was done with studying, and I didn't really. I was working as a production assistant. If you don't know, I'm sure you know what a production assistant is, but if there's anybody who's listening that doesn't, it's the entry level job into
Yes.
the Hollywood film industry where
Mhm.
you do have the opportunity. I did get to work next to actors that were making their way through the Bay to do their shoots, and it's a pretty grungy job. Lots of hours,
Yeah.
very little pay. No one knows who you are. You can get fired in a heartbeat.
Wow.
Uh, and I just wasn't fulfilled. I didn't like some of the bureaucracy with some of the shoots that I did. There were some great ones that I worked
Mhm.
on, and I'm still in contact with those people. But yeah, it was I ended up just feeling really like depressed and sad and kind of torn. And I had this moment where I went on top of this hill that I hike on in Marin County, and I was just kind of looking out, and I was literally asking for life to challenge me, to
Mm,
provide me something to struggle on, but also feel motivated
yeah.
and fired up and drive to do something with my life. And serendipitously, like not far after that, the whole bunch of series of events unfolded that led me to discovering Zook. It started with meeting my best friend and family, Alina, who's a dancer. She's
Alina
been dancing.
Rovito. Alina Rovito.
No, no, I don't think
Oh,
you
okay,
you
okay.
know her. Her last
Okay.
name's Mihai.
Okay, okay.
Um, she has been dancing for 15 years, and she was the one who introduced me to, actually, it was West Coast swing at first.
Hmm.
And I was like, whoa, what, like, this
Yep.
is interesting. What's this? And because I didn't know much about partner dancing already. So
Gotcha.
West Coast swing was already like really intimidating. Like these people
Yeah, they're moving. They're
are
like,
moving. Yeah.
wow. And so pressing too now. Is it me? I've heard that before that many people who started in Zoom from the New York side, a lot of them that I know have come from the West Coast swing um, kind of community, and it's interesting how that like kind of coincides. Those two different styles, how they even connected. For you, how did that happen? You going from the West Coast swing, was there like an event that the music was kind of just playing in rotation?
So I had been taken from that West Coast swing event to a Zouk event, and
Mm,
this was all in the Bay.
yeah,
And I was actually really intimidated by it first, like to the point where I was uncomfortable. I didn't really trust in my ability to connect with other bodies that way, I guess you could
yeah.
say. And but one thing I think that hooked me at the very beginning was the music. Brazilian zouk, as you know, can be very diverse music, including West Coast swing too.
Mhm.
And when I was seeing some people dance and seeing how the music was, part of the dance, and I wasn't just seeing dancing; I was seeing people create something.
Yes.
Um, and it took me a while to get to the point of filming it. I actually danced for a little bit before I ever picked up the camera and started filming it. I could go into why I ended up filming Zook if you'd like.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So I saw it's kind of like what you and I have talked about before. I saw a need for the community to have more exposure.
Yes.
And I was already a visual person, an artist, someone who not just filming people dancing, but likes to capture the emotion and capture like what's happening in the moment, and translate that out into the world, and so that people are aware. Like my
Mhm.
main goal for filming dance was to get more people to come out to the dance, because I had learned in my journey of both learning zouk and then ending up filming it that yes, I was intimidated by the dance, but after I got past that intimidation, I found like lots of benefits from Zouk: connection,
Mm.
community, uh, fun, movement, exercise. There's so many things that
Yeah.
dance, not just Zouk, all dance provides people. And once I finally understood that, it became clear like, oh, okay, like I'm a filmmaker. I love
Yep.
movement. I love this dance. Let's put it all together.
Man, and that's a really important. I think too. I give so much props to filmmakers like yourself that came from filmmaking school and were able to now influence the dance world, because for so long, we had videos, but for me as a visual and creative person myself, I always yearned to just like give me something different, give me someone else's eye, because I want to see what somebody else sees. And for me, being a dancer, honestly, for over like 20 plus years in New York, I gained relationships with artists. I studied them like a coach for most of my life, because I knew from performing there was going to be that transition. And I wanted to transition to not being a promoter or organizer, but a visual artist, because my thing as a dancer was let me now capture the same people that I love watching in a dancer's point of view. Because I think it's a lot different. A person who isn't involved in the dance world, the way they see it, compared to a person like you or me that is involved with the community, that does know the people. That's just my honest opinion, just from seeing other people's.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then what was the actual first Zook event that you actually filmed at?
The very first Zook event that I filmed at. I think it was Dansar's Love at First Zook, a Valentine's Day event. I think
Yeah.
that was the first one because I remember using like my camera that I don't even use anymore. Like it was just like what I had. Yeah, I think that was it. In 2018 or 19, I think it was 2018 or maybe even 17. I'm not sure. It's been
Wow. I mean,
some time.
it feels like ages now.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I think it was 2018.
And then so filming these artists, you were able to film it, and that process of creating that first visual, what was it like for you? Like when you were finishing in post production, everything was complete, and you were able to showcase it. What was that feeling like for you? Because I asked that because many artists, whether you're a dancer, a painter, a visual artist like ourselves, a lot of times we are our worst critics. So for me, I always love asking that, is understanding from your perception, how did you gauge your own personal work?
Totally. From the my work from the first event that I filmed,
Yes.
I felt nervous and insecure and not ready and thinking that my work was amateur. Those were that's what was going on through me, and uh, I just remember the feeling of I'm really humbled to be here. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to showcase the dancers and to contribute to the dance community. And at the time, it felt like a lot of pressure because had also been watching other dance videographers and kind of seeing what they're doing, and I'm like, man, that must take a lot of time to get to that point of respect and acknowledgement. So that's what was going on through my head.
Man, that's awesome. And then what was the event that maybe, because I think sometimes a lot of visual artists, is always a moment, a gig, a project you're doing that kind of lets you know, like, I have grown from point A to that present point. Was there an event or was there a moment that you said, wow, I've really progressed from that first event?
Sure. There's probably a few, but I think the one that really I felt a big shift with was my first time filming SFSBK 2019 in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first Congress that I, first of all, seen so many people and in one place, and all four dances, salsa, bachata, kizomba, and zouk,
Mm-hmm.
all, I'm responsible for all these dancers, and it was a lot of work, but it turned out to be a beautiful experience. And as a result, I hope to work with that team every year.
Absolutely. I mean, because I love how you went there, because like you said, your first event was that Danzar Valentine's Day event, but now you went into a festival, into a congress, and I think for so many people, like I think I understand when artists have the pressure, but I think it's a whole lot different as a visual artist when you realize that whatever content you create and is put out, it is subject to praise but also criticism. It is also, people are always going to say, oh, you didn't capture me enough, I've gotten everything. And I think
Yeah.
too it's so interesting because so many people think, as the videographer at the event, you're able to film each and every person at each and every moment.
Yep.
And people are like, wait, I saw you with the camera here, but I don't see me. But how was that when you actually did the San Francisco event? Everything's done. What was the overall feeling for you like?
I felt exhausted, but also elated, excited, joyful. Just, I mean, I couldn't believe that I had just made it through that event. I mean, I basically didn't sleep just because I
Yeah.
was so hell bent on making sure I did a great job. And I had a whole vision of what I was going to do with the demos and the recap. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also I met some other content creators that were there, and that was a really cool experience. I just left feeling like I learned a lot and that I was ready to take on a lot more after the festival was finished.
Man, I mean, I think it's also that adrenaline kind of like, all right, that lack of sleep sometimes can just give you that little push. But I think also too, what really benefits is when you have that person that maybe comes up to you or maybe writes to you or comments on a post saying thank you, because I think too, some thanks really goes a long way, no matter how large or small, because we're at festivals and most of the time, of course, the performances, the headliners, the pros are the focus. And I think also people don't understand the last 10 years, in my opinion, media has been the hugest benefit for events because don't get me wrong, I love photographers. But when it comes to videos, it's a different feeling. You
Hmm.
know, there's a
Yeah.
difference of getting a photo from a demo than getting the whole demo on video and seeing that emotion, seeing the crowd, just feeling the movement. So my question now to you is, with being able to film in different places, you went from San Francisco and then now you're doing work with Zukomax, which is, I heard, is more of like a retreat. It's a retreat in Mexico that people are able to go to. Most of course, it's a predominantly Zouk type of event. But I've always wanted to ask you, what is that experience like for someone who hasn't gone to Zukomax? Like, what can they look forward to when going there?
The experience of Zukomax is pretty much like you said, a retreat. It does have a very heavy Zouk portion. Most of the people there are, at least when I was there, veterans of Zouk.
Mm.
A small portion of the beginners. This particular Zukomax that's coming up is pretty much the whole month. It crosses over. And, yeah, I know, right? I'm only going for the festival portion, but right
Yes.
now they're doing teacher trainings and they're doing classes, and then they'll have retreats to Tulum. So it really is like the Zouk experience, which is probably why a lot of Zookers are going, because if you don't like one aspect, you get to experience another, whether it's if you like social dancing, if you like classes, if you just like the parties, if you like the after parties, if you like dancing in exotic locations, that's all Zukomax.
I mean, yeah, when I saw the waterfalls and the swings, and just for me, I would say is that the raw emotion when the way you were capturing the smiles, the facial expressions, because again, it's not just the dancing. You want to see people literally feeling like they're enjoying themselves. And
Hmm.
you've been able to capture that beautifully, but also I have to give a huge shout out to SBKZ Media in Kamagami, and this guy and you and him together as well. But I would say the trifecta for me has to be you, SBKZ Media, and We Are Street Dancers with Dan Yamamoto. You guys, again, you specifically were a huge part and huge inspiration for me to film Zouk. I came from New York, which is predominantly salsa and bachata, and Zouk has been for over the last 5 to 10 years has been really growing. And watching your videos, I'm like, this is there's something here that's really special, and I want to be able to capture it in New York because I think a lot of people just get lost in, oh, it's just salsa and bachata. But for me, and I tell people this, even promoters know, I love some salsa and bachata, but if I'm filming and you ask me what genre, I will take Zouk. It's
Hmm.
just in my I'm still in the process of even learning it, but the musicality, the technique, the flow of things, it's an experience in itself. But you are right too. I think also the atmosphere in Zouk events has a different feeling that I'm really keen on. And like you said, you're in Zukomax, and this is a whole month experience with trainings and then the festivals happening. So for a person, and you kind of expounded on it, but for a person who is that novice in Zouk, what is some advice you could actually give them kind of getting introduced into that world?
Totally. And I also wanted to say I feel really honored and good to hear that I've inspired you.
Absolutely.
I had no idea, and I'm happy that's what it's all about. So that's that fulfills my day. I'm good. And then what was your other question?
The question was, oh my God, we was, hold on, damn, I just literally brain farted. But it's interesting. So you know what? We'll
No
skip that.
worries.
But what's funny is I actually have a question from a person I know named Martin Rivera Baldetta, all the way from Rhode Island. He says, or he asks, while anyone can buy a digital camera or carry a cell phone to record videography, are you noticing a lot of competition at these events?
Martin, thank you for asking that question. It's a great question because there's a lot of things that I've been discussing around this. And, it's the competition varies, is the way I've kind of learned to put it right now. What I've noticed is a lot of people, especially in dance, they like to just buy a camera and go film, and they're not really interested in necessarily selling it as a service. And I don't discourage that, but it does challenge me to step up my game and provide something unique, because why would someone want to use someone who prioritizes creating content versus somebody who just brings in a camera? But that being said, I think it really depends on what also the organization wants. If they want full coverage, if they want to have high quality videos, my whole goal is when I'm creating a video is I tell this to my clients, is to tell a story and to create an emotional response. We
Yes.
can all film on a camera, we can all film on a phone, and if there's no intention of creating a response or creating an emotion, that kind of falls flat and gets lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you because me doing this since 2015, of course there were people doing it before me, but I really felt for me my difference was as an actual dancer at one point. My focus and my vision and my whole game plan was different. I literally did the route of myself of just going to dozens and dozens and dozens of socials and saying, "Hey, do not pay me. I need to learn everything I can. I need to apprentice myself. I need to get the experience in."
Totally.
And then once I know and I feel comfortable, but also when people are seeing that progress in me, because it's also different. I tell a lot of videographers nowadays having the opportunity to talk to them is, listen, this world, this dance world, it can be fun, but it can be very challenging. And like you said, a person who just bought a camera, the intent might be totally different than a person like me and you and the way we film things. But I would say this is it's a kudos to the San Francisco SBK because they believe in your vision. There's a difference between a vision and then spontaneous just moments. Because anyone can film on their iPhone a great moment because iPhones now technically have the same quality as the Canons and the Sonys now. But it's also what you have here, what you're seeing. Because what we may be at the same exact event, but maybe seeing things on a different scope. But what I love to see for me is people like you, Kyle, and Dan actually working together. And I've been very vocal about it, I am a huge proponent of collaboration and love to see you guys collaborating because in a dance industry where it can be very cutthroat and very selfish, in honest opinion, I love to see more and more videographers and visual artists collaborate. That's a huge thing of mine because it's so easy to say, but for so many people, they find it so hard to do. But for me, being from the East Coast and having that experience now, being a media director myself at a Congress, I've taken that role of saying, hey, I'm going to reach out to people like you and reach out to many of the artists and talk to them and say, hey, I love your work. I respect your work. And I'm sharing your work because I want to, not because there's an underlying factor that I need from you, but I love and appreciate your work because I know what it takes to get to that point. And for me, just seeing what you've been able to do and create is really special. And now, before we get into our segment called the randoms, now we're in 2022. You've created an amazing Zukomax 2021, and now year 2022. Besides, I know you're going to be at the next Zukomax. But what other projects, or what are some things that you're looking forward to doing for the future?
Great question. For me in the future, I actually have a plan. So dance, of course, is something I plan to be involved in as long as it has me.
Yeah.
Also, I am. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but I am of the mind of it is tough to create a career from dance media.
Mhm.
It's dance is, especially in Zouk, it's still building its reputation. It's still, a lot of people still don't understand Zouk, don't know where to place it. There's still that whole thing with where to come from and the discussion of lambada,
Yes.
all of that. So for me, it's actually really important that I focus on expanding my videography. And I do weddings, I do event videography. I work with people have landing videos for their business pages, or they're expanding their brand and they just want to create content. I just finished a project that involved a university professor who's retiring, and he has this whole course on mindset. So I ended up editing 10 30-minute segments. It was the most editing I've ever done.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. 10 30
Oh,
30-minute
God.
segments, color grading, 2 camera angles, audio, everything, like full studio setup. And it was exhausting, not as fun as dance. Like dance is fun. Like
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and I do like working on other things outside of dance because I know that'll actually help me support the community more and be less tense with it. There is, I've seen people who work with festivals, and there is a lot of things that you have to work through. Not, a lot of the times you're going to have an event and you may not even break even, but you got to pay your videographer, you got to pay your, your staff, and things add up. And as the industry is growing, I would like to grow with it and also grow my brand and business outside of dance as well.
It's true. And I love to hear that besides dance, that genre and that kind of world, you have stepped out and now, of course, doing event work, because outside of that, because it was something you said earlier that I totally agree with. And I think many people don't understand, like, we love the dance world in terms of filming it, but we understand there are some limitations to it. Don't get me wrong, there's some videographers that are able to travel, but if we could all make 6 figures doing this, I think a lot of us would be doing this more often. But it was something you said earlier, was that, for us, we're doing all of this work, and, like you said, the breaking even part, but it's also the passion that we have behind it. I think that's a total difference. But also, when people can have, say, for instance, somebody can have the same camera like you, but like I said earlier, they won't film it like you. And that right there is the individuality aspect of it. And that's what makes people very unique. Because if you filmed it like someone else, what is the point of an event needing you if you can do exactly the same thing? But, seeing your work is really amazing because it's so unique, each and every project you do. But it's also, what I find appealing is that, we do this dance work so a consumer from a whole nother genre can look at that and be inspired, and then they want us. Because I tell people, you're really, in all actuality, in my opinion, you're going to make a lot more money meeting someone that just saw your visual from a whole different genre than sometimes you'll make at a dance event. But that's also because the work you've created has given those opportunities. And that's, for me, that's been happening to me. I create a visual one place, but my intention is for someone else to see it and then say, let me take a chance on that. And it's a gamble, but it's a gamble that I love. But, seeing, like you said, you're going from dance photography, now working weddings, landings, and working on different projects. And that's really special to see. And I think now it kind of helps us segue into our last segment called the randoms, which is about 10 questions I have here that may deal with dance, life, and everything in between. So, Preston, all I need to know is when you are ready.
I'm ready, and I think I remember that question too that
Mhm.
you were going to ask. You asked me what I'd have to say to someone who's, I don't know if it was in regards to Zukomax or someone who's just new to Zook. Some
Yes,
tips for
yes.
them.
If someone who is new to the Zouk scene, how would you, or some piece of advice you would give them entering into that type of world? What can they expect?
Yeah, I think I would say it's Zook will help you break through some barriers, especially if you are not familiar with a lot of vulnerability and body contact. You know, you really have to become aware of your own self, and you have to become aware of the person you're dancing with. And I think it if if you're getting into Zouk and it seems tough and intimidating, all I would say is there's, you know, that's part of the growth, and there's
Mhm.
a lot of healing and benefits from sticking with it. And most of the people that I've seen who have usually told me, "Oh, I can't get into this dance; it's just too intimidating." It's like I got friends that I met like just a year ago who said that.
Mhm.
Now they're teaching Zouk, so it's like, all right, I see.
Hey, I mean, to each his own, but I would definitely say for me, going to a Zouk event, my first one in last September, it was like, why haven't I been here sooner? For for me being so musically inclined myself, just seeing how people can flow with the music, and it was like, man, this is not salsa bachata at all.
Yeah,
And I love it, you know. And for me, again, just hearing the story and understanding, giving really glimpses, because our lives are like onions and there's so many layers to it. So, kind of getting understanding of how everything was created, or how kind of really everything has started, is really humbling and inspiring. But now we got to get to our segment where we may talk about some dance or some film. We may talk about Hawaii. We may talk about California. So I'm actually going to throw now my first question at you, and this one should be interesting. Can you tell me, if you had one last meal, what would it be?
oh wow, if I had one last meal, what would it be? This is an interesting question. um I think my last meal would have to be, I know this sounds boring, but it'd probably be a Caesar salad with chicken, and it wouldn't be like just
Okay.
like some regular Caesar salad. It'd probably
Okay.
have to be like some organic kale, like there's this place here called Blue Barn.
Mhm.
I love their salad. It's really clean. Their greens are from a farm, and like I could eat 1,000 of those, and I'd still probably have it be my last meal, even though I've eaten it time and time again.
Hey, I mean, I love it. And I truly, truly support anything organic. Me being an expecting dad in a few months, we're making sure our kid is eating organic, because all this processed food is ridiculous. So I'm definitely going to
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, we're having, as they call it, a dance baby. So,
Nice,
you never know. A few years from now, you'll see me and the kid, filming. So,
nice.
hopefully. So, next question here. This should be actually a little bit more introspective. So, I need you to describe yourself in one word.
One word. Flexible.
Okay. I mean, hey, I've actually never heard someone say that. So, I love that, because I think, too, you have to be flexible in this world. You can't just be like a one dimensional person. And kind of maybe, in what way would you say flexible?
Personality wise, I mean, if anything, I've been overly flexible in the past, and I've had to strengthen more of an assertive side of myself, because my thing is I want to know what's going on with everybody. I want to hear everyone's stories. I want to talk to everyone, be friends with everyone, and just kind of like nurture as much as I can all the people that come through my life. I tend to be a big listener, and I take in a lot, and that's how I came up with the word flexible.
Hey, I respect it. And actually, kind of going back into our talk about Zook, we have a Magali saying, Yes, she did some training in Zouk. It's definitely life changing mentally and physically. And hey, I truly believe that because if I have to be honest, and I'm not going to say any names, especially in New York, people have told me they went from bachata, went to one Zouk event, and it changed their life for the better. So hey, I truly, definitely agree with that. All right, now we're going to put you on the spot here. We hear that of course, you love to dance, and Brazilian Zouk. Lambada is one of your favorites. That's really your expertise. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you're at your favorite events right now, last song, you can only dance with one person. Who is it?
Wow. I would say Evelyn Magadi. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but Evelyn. You know Evelyn?
No, I'm not familiar. Probably through Facebook, but I'm not familiar. But actually, let us know kind of why that person immediately popped into your head.
Sure. Evelyn, she's known pretty big in Zouk. She has a way of flowing, and I think I've told her this or her husband Derek. I feel like every time I dance with her, she turns my mistakes into opportunities, and I don't know really what's going on because I'm still learning the dance. I'm still very much in the novice part of my learning journey, but when I dance with her, it's really interesting to feel her suggestions, because that's a big thing that Evelyn teaches, because she understands the idea of following, but she's really good at suggesting things without like backleading, and you kind of learn in the dance as you're going through the motions, and it's just really cool. And when I dance with her, I feel like I'm learning.
I definitely respect that. I mean, having a person that really can really educate you and help you and guide you the right way is very important. All right. So now this question. So Preston, if you are not, or if you aren't dancing, you are doing blank.
If I'm not dancing, I am probably watching movies, critiquing shows, reading what other people are saying about media and context of like movies and the Hollywood industry. And if it's not that, it's probably just talking with people and just learning as much as I can by relating with them and hearing what they have to say and hearing what's going on in their life, and just kind of the power of communication is a big thing for me. So like if I'm not dancing, not consuming media, I love to talk to people and I love to get their world.
Okay, I love that. I love that. I feel like you're very in tune with people and that communication and that connection. So I definitely appreciate that. All right, our next question will be, because you love film, we're gonna put you on the spot again, and you can even give us your best or worst film you have ever seen. You can either choose to do one or the other, or you can also do both. So you can say your best film you've ever seen that you love, your worst film you've ever seen, or even both at the same time.
Gotcha. A film that's not mine, like just a movie?
Yes, just a movie.
Gotcha. Well, one of my most inspired films that have inspired me to actually create films is probably Inception by Christopher Nolan. I like the concept of going deeper, of psychological thrillers. And that movie, for example, one of the reasons it does so well, it still makes money, even though it's just a movie you can rent now, is because people tend to go back and watch it over and over again because they keep making new meanings when they watch it. So that's my best and my worst. Oh man, I don't even like, I mean, I try not to say like I have a worst of anything. There's it goes up and down. I mean, like the thing that comes up to me right now is I didn't like the Matrix, the new Matrix.
I know. That's why I asked you this question.
I know I posted about it. And the main reason was because I actually had friends that worked on it, so I had some insider stuff going on with that movie. So
Oh man,
it's
I
you
could
can
tell you
relate.
were like emotionally attached
Yeah,
to that.
I was.
Hey, I haven't seen it yet, and I'm not gonna lie, you kind of inspired me that I'm still hesitant on seeing it. But
It was not as bad as I said. I promise.
okay,
I'm just it's just not. I'm someone who believes in the power of people's creativity, and I think that if they really cared about the franchise, they could have found someone to make something truly inspired. And that's my takeaway. But if people love the movie, good for them. You know, I always honor people's appreciation of content media in whatever form it is.
absolutely, absolutely. And if I can interject, I'll actually give you my best and worst. So it isn't too much, but my best is actually a series, which is I am a huge, huge Harry Potter series, like from 1 to freaking 8, and whatever keeps coming. I mean, some of them are a little bit better than the others, but I mean that's one thing. Absolutely love. And if I have to give you my worst, I don't know if you know this movie. This movie was actually rated at one point the worst movie in the States. And you might know it because it actually was based in San Francisco. And it's called The Room.
Oh yes, yes,
Yes.
of course.
Yes. So that movie there, I mean, it's so bad for me that it's good.
Yeah, yes.
Tommy must, oh God, I just can't even. But yeah, I mean, that right there, hey, yeah, it just words can't explain. And then when James Franco did the movie reenacting it, it
Yes,
was
that was great.
oh my god, oh my god. Hey, I had to bring some levity there. All right, now
Yeah.
let's get back into filming at dance events. And I think this next question here is really going to be helpful for people who are attending events that you're filming at. So for this question is, what is a huge no-no when filming someone? Meaning is, because we understand we're at events, and once you have a camera, everybody is just looking around like a deer in the headlights sometimes, waiting. For you, what is something you would tell somebody not to do if they want to try and get on camera?
Are we speaking as far as like if I'm talking to another videographer or the dancers?
Oh, it's like for dancers, for people who are like, some people I would say they do too much when they see a camera. They try to overdo it, and
Hmm.
sometimes the connection gets lost. Or I
Totally.
mean, for you, what would be something like kind of a pet peeve of yours
Sure, sure.
when you're filming someone?
I love this question. I could say a lot about this. I'll start with the thing for me is attunement. Um, at least as the videographer. For the dancers, I would say the same thing as you. Don't don't try to do anything when the camera comes. It's not going to look, if you feel good in your dance, that's going to be a great video. And
Yeah,
also, it's also the videographer's job to, at least this is what I think
yeah,
in my work. I think it's the videographer's job to be attuned to what your experience is like, and that's a tough one because I know, because I engage a lot of people in this kind of discussion, is like,
yeah,
how do people feel about videographers in the room, and how do
yes.
you engage with them, and how do you communicate what works and what doesn't work for you? And a lot of people, they don't, like, I learn a lot, like, well, I didn't really want to be filmed, or I did want to be filmed. And
Yes.
so it's caused me to really make a practice out of, and I think a lot of people have noticed this about me, is when I'm filming an event, I am working really hard to feel if you're vibing with my
Hmm.
camera. And that can be very subtle. Like some of you don't want to show it. And just like, oh, I don't want to make the cameraman upset. And it's like, oh God, you don't want to make the cameraman upset. I would be totally fine if people were like, no, 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 don't film me right now. I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
appreciate that. Like, okay, do that. Tell me so I can go film
Yes,
someone that would be like, oh yeah, post it tomorrow. And then
yes,
we
yes.
move on, and everybody's happy, and it's not going to be awkward. I mean, we're there capturing an event that you are the main reason the event's happening. We're just a plus one.
Man, I totally agree because I've actually told many videographers a test that I created. I wouldn't even say created, but I've adopted was I call it the light test. Meaning is I would actually purposely film someone that I'm probably not going to use it, but I want to see your reaction to the light. When
Hmm.
the light is near you, I need to see your facial reaction. Is it receptive, or is it you're pushing you and your partner to go a little bit further out? And I've noticed that has been something, but also, like you said, because you're creating recaps, and a lot of times you really don't know until you do a recap, and somebody's going to message you and say, I didn't really like that. And what I do too, a lot of times, if I know I'm going to use this footage, I'll actually sometimes go up to the person after.
Totally.
I mean, I make it much easier because I get it. We're filming for days and days and days. But, of course, the artists understand we're filming.
Yes.
But we're talking about the consumer, the person that came to see their friend perform and just so happened we filmed them dancing. I'll go up to them and say, hey, I have this video. I would love to put in my video. And if it's a yes or no, cool. Because, hey, in New York, oh, yeah, it gets a little annoying because, like, a camera's there. But there's certain people that have told me, oh, I don't like to be filmed. And I just got to be honest and tell them I wasn't filming you. I was filming somebody else. And, you're just in the light, but you're not in the actual shot. But, hey, to each his own. I appreciate it. But I think now it's going to help us get into our last 3 questions. And these should be fun. So our 8th question is, give me a destination city of yours right now at the top of your head.
Destination city. Like somewhere to go. Does that mean somewhere to go visit?
If you literally can close your eyes and be there right now.
Right now, Playa del Carmen's coming up, but I don't want to get anybody's hope up. I mean, it's good for dance.
Yeah.
That or wow. I might need to go visit more cities. I haven't been to New York. That's what comes up in my head.
Hey, listen, man.
New York. I need to go.
You come to New York, I will tell you all events that you can go to. Like, man, I would love definitely you guys come to New York because I will be in San Fran in June filming, but also spending time with me and my loved one. I definitely can't wait to go to San Fran, see Woolman's Reef or Worth something.
Sure.
There's so many sites in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Of course, besides the Golden Gate Bridge. But hey, I definitely would say this: whether it's New York or wherever else, Playa del Carmen. I mean, there's always some place. But
I got the right answer, which is for you. Siena, Italy. Actually, believe it or not, I lived there for a short period of time, which is why I have that answer. But what made it unique was it's very medieval. There's not many cities in Italy that look like Siena. It has it feels ancient, and if you're interested in that kind of experience and you have the ability to go, I'd say check it out.
Absolutely, and thankfully you said Siena instead of Milan, and the cliche answers that most people would have.
Right,
so
exactly.
I appreciate that. All right, our 9th and second to last question is: we're going to bring it back to football. So, who is your favorite football player of all time?
Oh, favorite football player of all time. It's probably Larry Fitzgerald besides my brother, just because I met him. He was really kind to me. He's a great athlete. I think he's retired now, or he just retired. But yeah, Larry Fitzgerald. And I think Larry Fitzgerald, and I don't know that a lot of people will know him too.
Of course, Arizona Cardinals legend. I mean, this guy, wide receiver. I mean, for me, I know I played with him in Madden. So
nice,
definitely.
That's awesome. I like that you know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, this was actually our 8th question. So this is our 9th question.
No worries.
This should be fun. Is your favorite Hawaiian dish?
Oh. Probably anything with Kulua pig, actually. I almost said loco moco because you said that earlier. But I think anytime I go to an authentic Hawaiian luau and I actually have the authentically pit cooked Kulua pig, it's usually my favorite. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. And now it brings us to our last question. And I've been asking a lot of my guests this question, and it really kind of takes people back because from your journey from start to present day, you've been through so many experiences, but this question really I love asking, and it goes like this. Preston, when you are in a new phase in your life in the future, how would you like to be remembered?
Beautiful question. I would like to be remembered for caring about people and creating memories. The big part of that question, what comes up for me is legacy. I want to leave something behind for people to benefit from, to grow with. And also, I want to inspire people. I do have a vision of making stories and films and movies, however it shows up, that get people to think, to question, to expand their own mind, and to communicate in new, unique ways.
Absolutely. Beautiful answer, by the way. And again, thank you for doing this segment. I love doing this to all my guests because I feel like
Yeah.
it brings and it ties the whole conversation together. But now we are at our conclusion of our talk today. And like I said before, I feel like this is a part one to hopefully more parts. And I'd love to have you on in the future, see what new projects and events you've been up to.
Absolutely.
And I definitely appreciate your time and effort. But before we do go, if you had any last few words for myself and the audience, but also contact information on how people can reach you and see what Makana Media is doing next.
Totally. Thank you for the question.
Absolutely.
I would say, something that I want to leave everybody with is, if you see this, I want it to be very transparent that I want, not just with me, and I can't speak for the behavior of other videographers, but I want dancers to feel comfortable with the videographers. Even if you think that videographer's an asshole, doesn't matter. He is there to film and work the event. If he has an ego, you maybe have a way of dealing with that, but don't feel afraid to say, hey, I don't want to be recorded. Also, there's other things, like if you're not sure, like we have the capability to delete the video then and there.
Yes.
Like, hey, I don't know how I felt about it, and we may not have time to show it to you, but if you know that like it felt like a nasty dance and you don't want it to get posted, you can just be like, all right, like I know you can just delete it. It makes everyone's job easier, and it makes people feel more comfortable. And then also on the fact of on the topic of what if you don't want to deal with that? You're just there to dance. It's not my responsibility to talk to these videographers. It's a balancing act. It's also on us to kind of feel what you're going through, to kind of get a vibe of the room. That's why I have a lot of discussions at socials, because I kind of learn in that time, like, oh, by the way, I love it when you film me. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that you loved it when I film you. Oh, or I hate it when you film me and I just don't say anything. It's like, I wish you told me so.
Yeah. I think it's all a conversation, really. That's it.
Yeah. So it's the conversation. I just hope to encourage people to feel like they can be real and authentic with videographers. At least you can with me. I love to be challenged. I love to be asked questions. I'm always expanding my way of thinking and learning about people, and just going deep and getting people's story and why they're doing what they do. That's really, at the end of the day, that's why I film. It's not because it's like, oh, this video is cool and I like to create cool visuals. Like, that's cool too. But at the end of the day, it's really capturing the emotion and telling a story and connecting to you, the dancers.
Absolutely. And then as well, lastly, how can people contact you? And, if they want to get a visual from Makana Media, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. You can also email me too. So I have, my Instagram is Makana. I think it's like / or underscore media. I forget what that line's called all the time. And then there's just Makana Media on Facebook. It should show up. You shouldn't need to type in any symbols or anything. And then my email is preston.curley, CURLEY @gmail.com. And feel free to just, I'm also a videographer that loves it when people ask me questions about the art. And I think people are starting to learn that. People ask me like, oh, what do you think about filming in blah, 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 or 24 frames per second, or 4K, or this camera, that camera. I was like, I love that stuff. Like, I may not respond immediately, but I mean, I'm telling you, like, I'm not someone who's like, oh, this person's messaging me, like, like, I'm always interested in helping, feed into that world. Because I was in the same place. I don't know if you've had a conversation with Kyle, but I used to bug the hell out of him when I was, I was so determined. He's probably like, wow, Preston's really different now, because when he first met me, I was like, question this, question that, question this. I haven't bugged you yet. You got to tell me.
Hey, I mean, the people that inspire you it's always great to learn from them. Of course, you
Yeah.
can, you say you kind of have that annoying thing of like just bugging, but hey, I'd rather bug you and learn the right way than not say anything at all and really just fail completely without even, because hey, if you don't ask any questions, you won't get any answers. So I mean, again, you had to do that to get to really where you are, but having now you guys collaborate with one another, that's really special. And for
Yeah.
me, collaboration is key. And again, I'm really thankful that I could have you on here. Diamond Rivera Films and Makana Media, two media companies that really care about not just the artist, but the consumers. And that's really important. But also, one thing I really appreciate is that we can have this conversation, because I think it is important, because I want people to get from this is you're an amazing videographer, an inspiring one, but also you're an amazing human being and an inspiring one. So I think people now don't just separate the artistry from the person, because at the end of the day, I feel like they're the same person, and we should appreciate them as a whole. So I definitely thank you for coming on, sharing your wisdom. I think everyone that's tuned in, that will be tuning in, this was episode 185. And, again, guys, you will be seeing as well Makana Media's work. I'll be sharing it as much as possible anytime I get any new
Thank you.
projects here. Absolutely, man. It's because I love what you guys do. I appreciate it. I value you guys' work. And everyone, please check out Makana Media. This episode will be also on Spotify soon. Everyone, have a great night. Stay safe. And we will see you soon. This Wednesday, check out Joanna Pellerin on the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast.